Hello, my name is Dr. Vikki Hufnagel. I'm from Los Angeles. My primary work is that of a whistleblower, and I have a radio program with many followers in the New York area on WBAI Pacific Radio. This all started early on for me as a whistleblower in women's medicine. Congresswoman Diane Watson asked me to look into a problem in Los Angeles, which was many women were having hysterectomies and never told what was being done. I worked with Watson and her entire group, and we created the first law in the nation on informed consent for hysterectomy. She had no idea what would happen to me. Neither did I. I was young and actually pregnant at the time with my first child. And what happened was I got the law passed, and it was later passed in New York and in Texas. But the payment I made was my entire career. All my peers, the medical board, and the institutions of medicine went after me to destroy me, to shut me up. They did a very good job. But I learned about courts, and I learned about the corruption that went on. And I met a judge. His name was Robert Yaffe, and he's still Robert Yaffe in practice. Robert was told by the appellate court that he had to review my case de novo. That means he had to read the entire case. I go into court and I find in the back of the area of his office area, 36 boxes, my case, 36 boxes all taped up. Not one box had been opened. And what did Yaffe do? Well, later on we found out that Yaffe was a friend of this one and that one. People who had attacked me for exposing hysterectomy abuse, especially that at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. I'd gone into the records room, the pathology department in the mornings, like 2 and 3 a.m., under the advisement of Michael Crichton. He told me, go look for the data, and I did, and I found it out. About 95% of the hysterectomies in the United States are not indicated at all, actually. Only 4% have actual indication. That's why we got the laws passed. Problem was, Yaffe was set up to take my license away. He never reviewed any of the case, none of it. But he'd already signed the document revoking my medical license. And in it, it said that he'd reviewed everything. Yaffe had such arrogance that he took a big black marker and crossed out, reviewed the case, and he revoked my license. Now, with that kind of justice, I mean, what are you going to do? You try to go to the Supreme Court, you try to do things, but who has $10 million, $1 million? Who has 50,000? I learned that the courts were very expensive, and just to bring a case, you needed about 30,000 just to bring a case. So I've been a whistleblower for a long time, and I began writing Richard Fine when I found out that Yaffe had put him in jail for over a year. I mean, it was incredible. He was so abused. It was terrible. And Yaffe still sits there, arrogant and smartass, like he is the king of the courts. It's terrible. So then happened, well, no longer with a license. What good was I as a wife? I wasn't bringing in millions of dollars anymore. And the basis of all my work was about helping women anyways. I turned around and I came back to my home and found everything gone. Everything that I owned vanished with my ex-husband. I learned in finding pictures that he was taking pornographic pictures of my children. I went to the court, I went to a psychotherapist, I went to a psychiatrist, and here's what happened. We had blatant evidence, and my ex-husband, Robert Schuster, even testified in court that he was a sexual deviant and a pervert. The court ordered me to see a special therapist. His name is Dr. Clifford Montgomery, and he interviewed my children. Well, he interviewed the older child and the younger child. But Montgomery never listened to the younger child, ever. And he actually was abusive to her. The final outcome was that Montgomery went to the Superior Court, to Evita Bob, and said the following: well, Robert Schuster has admitted to being a pervert and a deviant, but does that make him a bad father? And Evita Bob did nothing at all. In federal court, yes, it all the way went to federal court, Judge Mitchell Goldberg called my children in, and my youngest daughter told the truth. My father feeds me so much food till I vomit so that he and my sister can laugh at me. He was torturing the younger child because she would tell the truth. She continued to tell the truth. Montgomery, I wrote to the medical board asking for a review. No answer. I mean, after all, I was the bad ace. They took my license. Why should they ever review any case that I sent them? They never interviewed any of the cases I sent them. Cases of rape, cases of unnecessary surgeries, case after case. If I submitted it, the medical board never looked at it. So now I had a child who had pornographic pictures taken of her and was abused by her father. And Montgomery is telling the court, well, just because he's a deviant and a pervert, that doesn't mean, anything about what kind of parent he'll be. Mitchell thought, well, okay, I'm going to order co-joint therapy. I'm going to force co-joint therapy to find out what's going on after my youngest daughter told the truth. My father abuses me psychologically. He force feeds me. He makes me vomit. I get sick when I go to his house. She physically got sick. And you want to know why she got sick? Because he left sex magazines out. He was into S&M, and this is all in the court files. So he left pictures of men torturing women all over. He left it on his computer. He left it in cards, in magazines, in newspapers that he left around. And my youngest daughter would get physically ill. My oldest daughter, who I lost completely, emotionally, psychologically, and intellectually, she did what we call splitting in therapy type language. She just couldn't believe any of the things that were being said about her father and lived a life of denial, even till today. Denial. So my youngest daughter gets the courage to go to the North Hollywood police. She takes the pictures that her father took of her and her sister and another friend, where he would have them undress and swim and pose. I mean, pose. These were not innocent photos. So she goes and reports this at North Hollywood Police. A woman officer intakes it, and then she calls and I call, and we never hear back. You see, we never hear back because there's this magical thinking concept of enforcement and the judges in the court. The magical thinking concept that they have is that every mother is trying to screw the guy, and every mother is trying to get everything, the money and the custody. They're trying to get it all out of the guy. So we now know that these people actually believe this, and they don't take any effort to look for truth or evidence in any of these cases. They just go, well, that's just another crazy mother. Now think about this. I've already lost my medical license, right? So what does my ex-husband do and the courts do? Well, she's a bad egg. Anything she say has to be a lie. She has to just be a liar. Well, we didn't hear anything for about 1.5 years. Then I get a frantic call from the North Hollywood Police from one of their investigators. Oh, we found your whole file, your daughter's file. I need to come out and see you right away. What happened was somebody had hid the file. Or maybe it was just misplaced, maybe just negligence. She didn't really know, but she reported it. She was being a good egg in the police department. So she came out, met my daughter. My daughter got more pictures to give to her. And then what happened was the case was given to a detective. He was going to investigate the case. Another year went by, and the detective never contacted my daughter ever. It vanished. It went up into smoke. And when I asked for a complete investigation, Oh, we did everything. Everything's fine. We closed the file. How could they close a file when no investigation took place? That got me really thinking about the corruption in family law court. One of my patients, Patty Hyde Marin, told me that she had been choked and beaten up by her husband. And she showed me the pictures and actually came over to me and showed me what he had done to her. I told her attorney, this is abuse, you have to report it. And the attorney told me, oh yes, I'm going to be reporting the abuse. And there was history of him, Cheech Marin, choking his child and abusing the children in many ways. In investigating this, I found that 4 psychotherapists, heard all these stories. And Cheech Marin was under anger management during all this. Not one of the therapists reported this to Child Services. Now, we have a law in California that if you're a physician, a healthcare provider, if you're working at a school, you're supposed to report this. And what I've learned is that people do not report this. And even when it's found out that they didn't, not even a slap on the hand, nothing is done about this. So Patty got upset over a situation. She had heard that a child living at Cheech Marin's house had been thrown out of school. He'd been caught with quote-unquote marijuana and heroin. I didn't know whether this was true or not. How would I know? I wasn't there. I didn't see it. But the fact that we know that Cheech has a history of abuse, that was one, and we know that he uses drugs, by his past history and his own admission, perhaps there could be something there. So I called Child Services. And I called the Malibu police, both. A kid that gets thrown out of school for being around needles and drugs at age 10 or 11, that's a serious problem. My goodness, that is serious. So the police come out, the Malibu police come out, you know what they do? They stand at a gate that's never opened, and they laugh and joke with Cheech Marin because he's telling his jokes. And you know what the police do, the Malibu police do? They tell him, oh, it was Dr. Vikki Hufnagel who reported this. Under state law, this is never, ever supposed to happen. Then I deal with the investigators and I find out that there's a 2 system we have here in Los Angeles, which I reported to the grand jury. Public doesn't know this, but if you're a celebrity or very wealthy, you go under the radar in Child Services. They have a special division for you. They don't put you in the computer. You couldn't even find that there was a report on him. And all of the mandates that are supposed to take place vanish as well. When an individual makes a report of a suspicion of a problem, an allegation, you're supposed to get a report back to find out, well, what happened? I never got that report. I called, I wrote, I did everything proper. I even asked for the investigation of the Malibu police, which they didn't even do a slap on the hand to the officers. Nothing was done. So if you're really wealthy and you got a good smile and you're a celebrity, geez, you get away with a lot here in Los Angeles. It's really called La La Land for a reason. Nothing ever happened, ever. The family law courts have many problems. The first one is arrogance. The judges, really feel that they're gods, and they are in many ways. The problem is they don't understand psychologies. They don't understand psychopathic behavior. If they would have taken a look at my ex-husband's record, they would have seen antisocial, psychopathic behavior. Me, I'm obviously paranoid. But after all, wouldn't you be? If you lose your license, everything that you owned, everything that you worked for, and all for the fact that I can't keep my mouth shut. And guess what? I'm right here on Lawless America, keeping my mouth open to tell you this story. I want justice and fairness. And perhaps if we all work together, we can work towards it. But it's going to take effort. You need to wake up, America. You need to take back the courts. You need to take back enforcement. And we need to protect our children. And we need to protect ourselves. It's been a rough road, but we can do it.